Oh, okay. Oh, what's going on?
What's going on?
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. Okay. It keeps when I'm pressing this. Let me see. Okay, so we're live. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of Friends Talking for 2024. Good to see you, gentlemen. Before we begin, I want to express my gratitude to you, gentlemen, for your support during my recent bereavement, the loss of my mom. You guys were phenomenal. We had quite a turnout of friends talking men in Boston, and that was really a fantastic event. And it showed they demonstrated the brotherhood. I really felt the camaraderie and the friendship and the brotherhood with us. Um, as I said, this is our first meeting for the new year. I want to wish everyone a happy new year and hope that all your aspirations and your plans for this year, the book sale will go mega. Dr. Carrington, Ryan, you'll pass all the legislation up in New York, and we'll all make this a wonderful, grand year. Dr. McCullough and his team are supposed to be working on the launch of Friends Talking this year. I hope you're doing that, Dr. McCullough. You and your team.
We started it, but we haven't moved
Okay.
further. But
You guys need to get on it. You guys need to get on it.
Yeah, we need to get on it. Yeah.
And so, without much further ado, I'm going to turn over to Dr. McCullough, who will introduce our guests for the afternoon and take it from there. Dr. McCullough?
All right. Thank you. I'd like to extend my thanks to Dr. Briana Greene for agreeing to kick off the year with her presentation. I asked her a little bit of her bio, and she sent me some information. So I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to talk a little, just briefly. She's a Floridian turned Californian who's currently a pediatric resident at Loma University Children's Hospital. She's known for working on a nonprofit called Hearts to Hands, which helps children in Tanzania. And so she's gone all over, traveled all over Africa. She has done some amazing things. That's why I wanted to bring her on. At such a young age, to be able to accomplish some of the things she's done is amazing. And so I'm really proud of her. I've known her for pretty much all her life because her dad and I went to school together. And we're actually connected through marriage in two different ways. We're related through marriage. So I'm hoping her dad comes on. I sent him a text, a reminder. I don't know if you sent him, Briana, but I hope you did. Your mom and dad, tell them to come on. It's okay.
I did, yeah. They have some company over today.
I'm getting some feedback. I'm getting some feedback. Hello, but I'm really happy to have you, Briana, and I'm going to turn it over to you. And I want you to talk about your charity work you've done, just totally amazing. And I want you to talk about so some of the guys can help with funding. I want everybody here to give you their connection at some point, so that if you need money, you know who to turn to, because we have a large number of people here that we can use as a resource to get you funding whenever things get tight. All right, I'm turning it over to you.
Dr. McCullough, you want to pray first, please?
Briana Greene.
You want to pray first, Dr. McCullough, please?
Sure. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather once again. We're so happy for this men's group. We're so happy that Dr. Briana Greene has consented to speak to us today. Bless her charity. We're so thankful for the work that you've allowed her to do, the way you've touched her. We can see it. And it's just a motivating factor for the rest of us. And we are hopeful that we can be a part of this ministry by helping to fund some of the projects that she comes up with. These things we're asking in your name. Bless us today. Amen.
Amen. Alrighty, well, thank you. I'm really happy to be here with you all today. Is it possible for me to share my screen so that I can share the presentation?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, I
Go
see the
ahead.
button, so, okay, perfect. Do you see my screen?
Yes, awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Let me start the slideshow. Okay, so like we said, I'm Dr. Briana Greene, freshly a doctor. I graduated from Loma Linda this May. And a little background on me, I've always wanted to be a mission doctor. And right after I graduated, I actually got the chance to dive right in. So these pictures are from Uganda. About 2 weeks after graduating, I went with Loma Linda University, and we were able to do health clinics that helped over 3,000 people. So I would see about 75 kids in a day. And it was just a really awesome kind of kickstart to the career that I hope to have in missions. So those are just some pictures from there. What I usually like to start with is I'm sure that all of us have some calling that we feel, and what do we need to do about that? And I always reference this verse, Isaiah 6:8, which says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and whom shall go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am, send me.'" And it's really, I think, that simple. When God calls, all we have to do is say, "I'm here," and he'll take that and multiply it. And so how my journey began in Tanzania and in missions in general. So when I graduated from college, from University of Miami, I knew I was going to take a gap year between college and medical school. And I knew that I wanted to go really far away. I knew that I wanted to hopefully, maybe one day have an orphanage or do some sort of charity work. And so I wanted to go somewhere and be really entrenched in that community and get to know them, get to know the needs. And so I flew on a plane. I went to Tanzania without an organization, just by myself. I stayed there for 3 months. And what's a really cool backstory to that is I initially contacted an orphanage and said, "Hi, my name's Briana. I'd like to come." And they were like, "Oh, wow, we have a daughter named Briana. Like, this is great. You should come. There's an apartment for you." And I was really excited about it. And then a few months later, I contacted them again and they said, "Oh, you can't stay on site anymore. You have to find a host family." And I was thinking, I have to find a host family. I don't know anyone in Tanzania. And I was really disappointed. And that weekend, I went to Miami Temple at the time. That was the church I was going to. And it was one of those weekends where you kind of sit in the back and you're ready to leave right after the service. And my friend said, "Oh, there's someone here you have to meet. They're from Tanzania." And I said, "Oh, like maybe next week." And they were like, "No, today." And I walk out there and I say, "Hi, I'm Briana. I'm hoping to go to Tanzania to this small town called Usa River, but I don't have like a place I can stay." And the guy says, "I'm from Usa River. That's my hometown. I can personally give you so many families that you could stay with." And that was kind of the beginning, where from that point, God just continued to show himself and lead and lead and lead. And this video kind of gives you a glimpse of those first 3 months all the way back in 2017. Hopefully you can hear the sound.
You'd think traveling 8,000 miles to Tanzania completely by yourself for 3 months would be scary, but I've never felt more alive. I learned Swahili, crashed a wedding, babysat triplets, volunteered at an orphanage, stayed with the Maasai tribe and learned their way of life. Found this, found a best friend, taught at a nursery school for 2.5 months. Did that, constructed a dental hygiene room from scratch, went on safari, celebrated my 23rd birthday with turtle, and I'm so excited to return this summer to help the land and people I fell in love with. For me, this is truly living.
So that was kind of the glimpse of that first 3 months, and this gives you an idea of where I was. So Usa River is a small town within Arusha, which is in the northern part of Tanzania, close to the border of Kenya. And so I told you that originally I wanted to work at that orphanage. And while I did, actually 3 doors down from the host family that I ended up staying with was a nursery school. It was built out of a home. There are about 60 children there. And that actually ended up being where I did most of my work. So again, that just kind of shows how God's plan can be different from ours, but it can be better. And at this nursery school, I went in, and in the classroom, there were like 0 supplies, maybe a couple pencils, some scraps of paper, for over 60 kids. And so as you can imagine, it was kind of chaos, not because the kids were bad, but just because at a young age, it's hard to stay focused when you don't have supplies and things like that to keep you engaged. And so I started teaching there every single day, doing all sorts of curriculum improvements. If I needed a worksheet for them, I would hand write 30 to 50 copies every night at home, cutting out all sorts of construction papers. And just trying to be really ingenuitive. So, for example, paper mache. All you need is newspaper, flour, water. In most places you're at, you can find that. And so you can see in that one picture, we made paper mache airplanes. We dyed different pieces of pasta and strung them together to make necklaces and things like that. If we needed paint, I would find plain white paint and then dye it with food coloring. And we just had a lot of fun. Another thing that I noticed was that the kids were all drinking from about 5 water cups for a total of like 50, 60 kids. And they could only take like a couple sips, and then that was kind of it for the day. And so I said, let's change that. And so we started a system where in the morning, a huge vat of water is boiled and purified. And then all of the kids now have their own labeled water bottles that they can access at any point in the day. Additionally, I noticed that some of the children kind of had brown teeth. And I know that in Tanzania, in particular in this area, there can be an issue with over fluoridation of the water, which can cause the teeth enamel to break down, and thus you have the discoloration. But also I didn't know if maybe it was just because of lack of education about dental hygiene. So I said, well, since I don't know, I can at least try to do something. And again, this is an example of where when you tell God, I'll do whatever you have for me, he'll deliver. Because I asked the nursery school director, can I just have like a plank of wood outside with some holes in it, and we'll put some toothbrushes in there, and then we'll get the hose and I'll teach the kids how to brush their teeth. And he was like, sure. Or I have this whole empty room. You can do whatever you want with it. And so I started sketching. I did this little sketch, and then before you know it, you had the Happy Teeth Center, and plumbing was installed, sinks were installed, and that was about 6 years ago now. And kids to this day still enter the nursery school through this room, learn how to brush their teeth, and it's a daily morning routine for them. And so this was the first day that it was open. It was a really exciting day. And we had posters up on the walls showing proper teeth hygiene. And that was that. And so then another thing that I noticed was that if you look in that corner, the picture in the upper left corner, the kids were all sleeping on the floor, the hard cement floor, for nap time. So I said, okay, I think we can change that. So I was able to go and find a bunch of mattresses, and then had fitted sheets made out of fabric that we found lying around the center. It's actually difficult to find fitted sheets in Tanzania, but I was able to go to the seamstress and say, let's put some elastic in the corners, and before you know it, we had fitted sheets. Additionally, I noticed that the nannies at the center were washing dishes for about 60 kids in one bucket. You can imagine how time intensive that is, how hard it is on their backs. And so we were able to get a sink put in for them that's still working to this day. And then that bottom picture, at the end of my 3 months, my parents were actually able to come visit me. And this was a last project called the Mafanikio Poultry Center. And Mafanikio means like prosperity. And the goal was that if they could have a chicken coop center, then hopefully they could produce eggs that could not only feed the children, but also be a source of profit. And what's exciting is actually currently right now, we're doing a complete revamp from the ground up, all new construction of a really large poultry center for them that will hold over 200 chickens. So it's kind of exciting to see the growth. Another thing that I found was that children were not like washing their hands before meals. And over there, some of the traditional meals are eaten with the hands. And so that was a particular concern for me. And so together with the center, we were able to rig up these sink-like machines, basically using a water cooler, and we put warm water in there and soap. And now before every meal, they wash their hands. By each toilet now, there's a sink, whether that be outside or inside. And so that's a great public health initiative that's continued. So when I left Tanzania in 2017, I knew that it wasn't a one and done for me. I'd be going back. And so the next year I went back with the goal of creating a playground for these kids. The only other playground really in the area was actually located in the back of a bar. And so parents could pay for their kids, for them to drink and then for their kids to play. And so I just wanted there to be a better option for them. And so the project was able to be completed in less than 2 weeks. It was down to the wire. I hired a team that actually has the mission of hiring orphans once they age out of the orphanage system so that they can learn a trade. And so that was really exciting. And then I tried to help a little bit, but they quickly took the saw away from me and said, maybe you should just supervise. And I said, all right. It was harder than I thought. And then this was opening day. You had different slide techniques. So some of the kids were go-getters and others were very cautious, wondering what in the world they were doing. And then it was after that summer that I actually decided I want to make this an official nonprofit. As I was sharing pictures and videos and just the mission behind what I do, people were getting interested, and I knew that hopefully with a more official organization that we could get even more donations and do even more work. And so that's what launched From Hearts to Hands. And the mission of the organization is truly in the name. So a lot of times I think we can see something sad or a bad situation and we all will feel bad inside, but then it kind of stays there. And the goal is to transform that goodwill of our hearts into our hands, into tangible action that actually creates solutions for these communities. And so the next year I went back again, and the goal was to help the nursery school get a school van. As you can see in the first picture, initially all the children were being transported in like a 5-seater car. So 15 kids per one trip, not the most safe way. And so we were able to raise the funds and then get a full van for them to transport the kids. And in that picture, a couple of my friends from medical school actually came with me, which was really exciting. And what I love about my projects is the sustainability and the goals behind the projects. And so actually now, 3 years later, or 4 years later now, we're able to bus children from a really poor neighborhood who had no access to daycare, no access to schooling, and the bus goes over there in the morning, picks them up, and then they get to have a full day at nursery school. And so the van ended up doing more than we'd even hoped. And so this is a behind the scenes. There's always a behind the scenes. And so from the negotiation of the sale to then gutting the whole bus, reupholstering everything to make it usable for the children. And then after that came COVID, and I know we all remember the COVID times, and while that could have caused the organization to come to a standstill, again, God was working and things had already been prepared basically for this time. So I had started the Mind Investor program, and the goal of that is to transfer kids from crowded government schools where you can have ratios of 100 students to 1 teacher and transfer them into private schools where you might have a ratio of 30 to 1 or 25 to 1. And not only that, the sponsorship pays for their fees, their tuition, their supplies, and their transportation. And so we were able to have 13 kids total in it so far. 12 have been in Tanzania, 1 is in Uganda, and 2 college certificates have been earned out of this. And so actually the nursery school teacher at the school wasn't fully college educated. So we were able to get her certificate in early childhood education. And then there's another story that I'll share with you that is definitely one of our success stories that I love. And something that's really important for me is not only sustainability, but continuity. And so this picture is from 2017. In the orange shirt, his name is Ibra. He's my little best friend for sure. He actually lived behind my host family's house. His family was renting 1 room for their entire family, and that was the whole house for them. And he would kind of like, we would talk through the fence. I might give him food through the fence. And then eventually he started coming over for all the meal times. And we just really bonded. And this picture of the whole family is actually from this February. So 6 years later, and we're still very much connected. Both him and his brother are part of our Mind Investor sponsorship program. And it's just been so cool to see the progression. Him and I initially would really be stumbling in Swahili trying to communicate, and now he's talking to me in fluent English as well. So it's just been a great thing to see his education thrive. And so this is the success story that I wanted to share with you. So this is Alex, and he is a member of the Maasai tribe. And my first summer there, so in 2017, I knew about a waterfall hike that was really popular with the tourists. You would walk through some villages and then descend actually down into this area that had a waterfall, and it was quite treacherous. And these Maasai boys would come out, and it would be their job to help you get down the mountain safely, and without them, truly, we would not get down safely. And at the end of it, they get tipped, and they, once they've split it amongst themselves, it might be like $2 each or less that they're getting for 5 hours worth of work of making sure we all got down safely. And that didn't really sit right with me. And I remember the next year I went back and I decided to do that hike again. And I saw Alex again on the side of the road, just waiting for tourists to come. And it made me kind of sad because, a whole year had passed, but his life hadn't really changed. And so I said, okay, Alex, let's, take a video of you, share your story, and I'll see if I can get you a sponsor. And I was able to get him a sponsor, and he actually attended a vocational college and got his degree in tour guiding management. And now he works for a safari company. And I remember it was really exciting. He messaged me and he said, hey, on this last trip, not only did I get salary, but I got a $200 tip. And so to go from a $2 tip for a whole day to a $200 tip, he's been able to give back to his family. And then in this picture, you can see him and his mother standing with a cow. So cows are really valuable. You can get milk from them, etc. And so we wanted to get his family a cow. Well, unbeknownst to us and the seller, the cow was actually pregnant. And so now they have 2 cows. And so that was a great blessing. They're able to use the milk not only to feed the family. He has about 5 siblings, but also they can sell it and use the excess to help pay for school fees, etc. So love to share that story of how well he's doing and what an impact it had on him. And this past February, I also got to see him as well. He made time in his busy schedule to come see me, and it was just great to just see how he's matured and how he's really living a good life. And then after that came the Tonga Wheelchair Initiative. So sometimes I'll get a message about a child in need. And in this case, I got messaged about a young girl who was born paralyzed from the waist down, probably some sort of maybe a birth injury, spinal cord, unsure. But basically, her tribe was considering it a curse. And so her and her family were kind of at the outskirts of the village, not really treated very well, didn't have enough resources. And so they were asking if I could help her. And so we started the process of looking for a school for her. And there are actually a few schools for the disabled, and we did find one. And upon enrolling her there, I was sent, pictures and videos of the area. And I found that a lot of the kids actually didn't have wheelchairs. And so they were dragging themselves across the ground, or their wheelchairs were in such states of disrepair that they really weren't doing well. And so we were able to get 10 of the kids brand new wheelchairs. And what was really cool was they were fabricated from hand. And so I got videos and pictures of the seamstresses, using the leather to form these chairs. And so what I really try to do with my projects is also support the local economy as best as possible. And so I was glad that we were able to do that. And then kind of fast forward to this year, I got the opportunity as a medical student to travel literally across Africa from coast to coast. So I started on the West Coast in Liberia, working at Cooper Seventh-day Adventist Hospital. And we were able to do a little bit of stitching and surgeries. And one of the big things that happens at this school or at this hospital is that there's an orthopedic surgeon there from America who's literally taking limbs that are bent completely the wrong way or at terrible angles, especially in children. And he's able to, over time, through this system that you kind of crank it every day, he's able to get these kids walking with perfectly straight limbs. And so it was a really beautiful opportunity to get to be a part of that. And then, you know, you can really be useful in any way because while I'm not going into a surgical specialty, my specialty is pediatrics. So being involved in like every operation may not have been the place for me, but I found that there were still tasks for me to do. So I completely organized the operating room and labeled everything. And now everyone has a place because in the middle of an operation, they might be like, oh, I need the saline, go grab the saline. And then when it was such a mess, it was challenging to find. And so now there's a complete organized operating room. And so there's always a way that you can find to be useful. And then something I just like to share is it was cool, the pregnancy and like OB/GYN center, they would call it Big Belly Clinic. Or if you asked a mother, are you taking your prenatal medication? They would say, have you taken your big belly medicine today? And so I just thought that was special. And then this part of the story, I really like to share because it just shows, again, how God leads before you're even aware. So this first picture in 2016, this was my year I graduated college, and I was babysitting in between to raise funds for my future life or this future trip. And one of the families that I babysat for gave me that book that you can see on the blanket there. And it's just a picture I took at the beach with my little setup. And the book was written by an Adventist mission doctor. And a few years later, after I was in medical school, I went to Haiti with the school to work at what they called a mission doctor boot camp. So kind of training for those interested in medicine in the mission field. And him and his wife were actually there. And so I got to meet and become friends with the author of that book. And then the picture that's labeled 2023 is from Liberia. So him and his family were at that time living in Liberia, and I got to work with them for a couple weeks and live with them. And so it goes from a book given to me about a stranger to now someone who's become a mentor in the field. And so it's just really cool how God can lead. And then I went to Central Africa in Chad. And so Chad, the population there, only about 4% has access to electricity. So depending where you are, it's quite a remote situation. To get to the hospital, I actually had to travel 10 hours by bus and then 2 hours by motorcycle, passing hippos, passing herds of cows, all sorts of things. And the hospital is actually the only place with electricity in the whole area. And so you can see here, I am with a baby in a box because there are no cribs, there are no bassinets. You can see he's hooked up to some oxygen, and that's actually the only oxygen system in the whole hospital for 105 patients. So he happened to be the lucky one who got it at that moment, but the resources are extremely slim. And then you can see that bucket hanging from a tree, and that's actually the scale by which we weigh the children. So you just place them in the bucket and take their weight. To give you more of a glimpse of this hospital, so families travel for miles. They might travel for days because it has such a good reputation. And when you come, you just camp out in the grounds of the hospital. And your family is essentially your caregiver because there's about 3 to 5 American doctors there, depending on the time of year, for 105 patients, and there's a minimal nursing staff. And so your family is the one who's going to cook for you, who's going to clean, all of those sorts of things. And so these families will stay there for months, and it just becomes a really communal setting. And so you can see there also where the women cook their meals at night. And I definitely got to see lots of different cultures. So the women there are from the Fulani tribe. It is one of the largest nomadic tribes across Africa, and they follow their herds to wherever they need to go. And the other picture I just love because it really shows such an intersection of two cultures in one picture. This is the pediatric ward at that hospital. For some reason, people there don't really like to be inside of this ward, so the children are often outside on mats. That is their hospital room, and that's their decision. And so oftentimes what we're treating there is malaria, and it's really unfortunate because people will just get malaria again and again and again. It's hard to escape it when the bugs are just outside. And then these are other pictures with some members of the Fulani tribe. I really bonded with this family, which was a special experience because I think it highlights how you don't have to have a common language in order to connect with someone. So I think when we all just kind of realize our humanity, they kind of felt that the babies looked like me, and so they would like pantomime me like going off with the baby, or like, here, take one, we take the other. They were a set of twins, and I would go, no, it's okay. But it was a really special relationship. And just to kind of highlight the cultural differences, I remember one day we weren't ready to discharge them, but they said, we have to leave today because the herd is moving and it's time to go. And so just a completely different world. And then I got the full experience. So I also got malaria and the parasite at the same time. It was quite a challenging experience. I don't think I've ever felt quite so sick ever in my life. But again, it gave me like a sense of empathy for my patients that I wouldn't have been able to have otherwise. I know that I was lucky enough to kind of set up hospital shop in my room, hanging an IV bag from the ceiling with a scarf. And I had, access to my own bathroom, but I know that my patients were about 8 to 15 to a room. The bathroom may have been a 3 or 5 minute walk away outside. And so it definitely just like highlighted to me just how much work we still have to do in this world to kind of create more of a sense of equality. And then one of the things that I always try to do and that I truly enjoy doing is seeing problems and finding solutions. So at this hospital, because it is so remote, oftentimes the women will come and maybe they've traveled for days and they have nothing with them. Or maybe it was such an emergency that they just hopped on the back of a motorcycle and came as quickly as they could to the hospital. And at this hospital, when you have a baby, there's no towels, there's no rags, there's no paper towels, there's no blankets for your baby, no diapers, anything like that. And so if you don't come with your own fabric, then there's like nothing for you to wrap your baby, to clean yourself, etc. And so I went to the market, and there are lots of fabrics available if you have the funds. And so just bought a huge stockpile of fabrics, split them up into sizes that can fit wraps for babies and wraps for mom. And so now whenever someone comes to the hospital, even to this day, there's still a stockpile available for them to where they can have clothes for themselves and for baby as needed. Another thing, I know I talked about the malaria earlier, the ward that held the mothers and the babies after they were delivered had no mosquito nets, and it's open air. And I was able to go find mosquito nets in the market, and now the whole maternity ward has mosquito nets. And although this country, there's a lot of Muslims, a lot of different faiths, in this picture, these two brothers were actually recent converts to Adventism, and they were really excited that their loved one under that mosquito net was now protected. And just to give you a global lens, there's all sorts of issues. These were a set of twins, and one of like the cultural issues that we faced was that it can be common to feed babies water instead of milk, whether they're waiting for mom's milk production to come in, or it's just cultural. You hand your baby to someone else and they're able to feed it water, and they think that that is the best way or the right thing to do. However, unfortunately, the water there has a lot of parasites and different bacteria. And so these little ones were kind of battling infections of the stomach due to drinking water. So you just learn that there's different things to battle in different places. And so we talked about the fabric project, and here you can see a mother, the skirt, the wrap that she's in is also the same thing that the baby is wrapped in. So she's one of the success stories of someone who got to benefit from the fabric project. And I was sent this picture about maybe 5 months or so after I left. So it was great to see that it's all still in use and still benefiting people. And then here's a video of another project I did there involving clothing.
In Bode, Chad, there is a village where the mission doctors often go to have church with the kids. And these kids are awesome, but my goodness, the poverty is staggering. Most of these kids only have one pair of clothes, so I figured I could start with fixing that. I found clothes for babies and boys aged 0 to 10 for less than $2 a set. For the girls, we bought fabric and found a tailor who was willing to make the dresses for 98 cents each, and he made them all in less than 30 hours. It's crazy that $2 is too expensive for families for clothes. Next, it was delivery time, and yep, that included an hour-long motorcycle ride. Everybody lined up, and then it was distribution time. The moms were super excited too. Check out these before and afters. Some kids really want to hold tight to their clothes. So why do this? For the smiles, to meet basic needs, but also to answer the question, what is the role I was born to write? And this is a big set.
So that project was really exciting, and it's something that we hope to continue as well, and just kind of highlights how easy it is to make a difference. Those dresses cost 98 cents, and I imagine that those families are going to keep them for quite some time. After that, leaving Chad, I went straight to Tanzania, so literally West Coast, Central, and now we're on the East Coast of Africa. And one of the things that I love to do is connect people in different countries together. So at Loma University School of Medicine, we had a big event where all the medical students could come write cards for patients in pediatric hospitals in Tanzania. And then when they were able to take a Polaroid picture, so that way, whoever gets the card can know who cares about them, who's praying for them, and just kind of connect those worlds. We were able to write the cards in both English and Swahili. And so about 80 cards went out both to Tanzania, but also to Liberia, the first place I was. And it was just a really exciting project. So you could see the kids light up, and I imagine that those cards are definitely going to be treasured. Another big project is at that same School for the Disabled. I noticed, or I heard that there were no access to sanitary feminine products for the girls. And so this video will kind of talk a little bit about that project.
For girls in an orphanage for the disabled in Tanzania, when their time of the month comes, their option for sanitary supplies are dirty rags or leaves. There are no local stores close enough to purchase pads, nor the funds to do so. So I wanted to come up with a sustainable option for sanitary products for these girls. We went fabric shopping and came up with a template following online regulations that really seemed to do the job. I tried to learn, but quickly handed it over to the professionals, hiring a group of seamstresses and their apprentices, girls who were learning the trade. They had quite the assembly line, and over 350 pads and absorbable inserts were made. Then I went sewing machine shopping, loaded everything into a bajaji, and then onto an 8-hour bus ride where we were dropped off on the side of the road, waited for our car, and went to the village. At the orphanage, we distributed all the products, explaining to the girls proper usage, maintenance, and cleaning of these products, while also providing buckets and laundry, which we also distributed to the local high school. And remember that sewing machine? We provided one so the girls can now learn how to make their own products and maybe sell them as a business venture. Women and girls are extraordinary, and women's rights, health, and access to hygiene products shouldn't be a luxury. Those are non-negotiables. I hope you'll join me in not only celebrating women, but advocating for them as well.
So that was, a project that we were really excited about in February. And when we did round 1, we actually gave to 35 girls. And then if a project works well, I love to make it so that it's easily replicable. And so actually in May, we launched again, but this time to 350 girls. And then this past, I believe, October, we launched again to another 350 girls. And so now about 735 girls have received products. And it's just really exciting to see it continue to grow and continue to see girls be benefited. This is from the most recent launch in October. And then to February, in Tanzania, I went to one of the local Adventist high schools where we have some of our kids sponsored. And I remember talking with them and checking in and making sure that they were happy with their school, things like that. And they said, you know, we love it here. The teachers are so kind. We get a good education. But they said, you know, I want to be an engineer or I want to be a doctor. And our school doesn't have a science lab. And so I said, okay, let's see what we can do to fix that. And so this video kind of shows the first day of looking at the space, kind of deciding what we were going to do with it. And then we were able to purchase supplies. So it's completely outfitted with all the beakers, physics supplies, the chemicals, everything that the government requires a functioning high school laboratory to have. And so this is the end result. And so now the kids have a science lab where they can do experiments. They have their teachers who are trained in this, ready to help them. And what I love is that mural on the back wall, I don't know if you could see the detail, but it's extremely detailed. You have strands of DNA, parts of the cell, and all of that was hand painted. And so it's been really fun to just find really amazing artists, local artists, and have them showcase their talents in this way. And so how I live my life, there's like a few phrases that I live my life by or that motivate me. And so one is that changing the world starts with changing a world. I think oftentimes the phrase like change the world can be seen as a cliche, but it's really not. If you break it down to starting with, you know, one child, one community, it can really spread like wildfire. Additionally, I've learned that wherever you go, be it in the mission field or elsewhere, get to know the heart of the place, aka the people. That's truly where you're going to have the most blessings, the most enjoyment, and that's truly what the purpose of any trip or any mission should be, is getting to know the people for who they are. I've always just felt so welcomed and invited by this community. You can see I'm there with the Maasai women, and then that hug I was getting on my final day in 2017 before I left. And I think in other situations we can really focus on differences, and differences can separate us, but I've always only felt like love and acceptance from communities there, and that's something that I hope to like continue to spread in my own life. This video is one of my favorite projects that was completed last September, and it kind of also gives you a chance to walk through the whole process of a project with me from start to finish. So I'll play that.
I have a question for you. What is the wrong you were born to right? Because I believe we were all born with either some special talent, some creative idea, something that we can use to help rectify some of this world's problems. But we'll get back to that question later. First, I want to tell you a story about a really special place. In Tanzania, there's a place called Kwamkono Disabled Center, which is an orphanage for 65 children who call this place home. All of them have varying degrees of disability. And while this classroom may have looked like it needed some work, in actuality, there was somewhere else that was in much more dire need: the bathrooms. So these pit latrines were actually what the children were using, and those can be challenging enough for an able-bodied person. So while these children are super strong and resilient, I knew that they deserved something better. And so came the Kwamkono Handicap Accessible Bathroom Project. So how I normally begin my projects is with a goal in mind. This time I created a vision board, mainly because you can see how great or not so great my drawing skills are. That's a sync. After that, I create some sort of graphic and begin fundraising as much as I can. Super grateful to have partnered with Mission Interest Group at Loma to match some of the donations. After that came the shopping. What was different this time, though, was that I was doing all the shopping via FaceTime. This was the largest project I'd ever taken on, and also the only one I'd ever done completely remote. But God always makes the way, and all the supplies were bought transported and loaded onto a bus, and they began a 15-hour trek to the orphanage. And praise God, not one piece was broken. Next up begins the checklist and meeting with my Tanzanian partner.
So this is the example of the toilet. This is number one.
Supplies are brought on site. Demolition begins, and then building begins. We were putting up a new roof, new ceilings, raising the walls, and things were starting to come together. Tile got put in, and this was really cool to see the plumbing be put in because not one power tool is used. They're amazing. Railings were put in, a new septic tank was created. Finishing touches were done, doors were painted, and then things were almost ready, just in time for opening day.
Whenever wote nasema asante, tunashukuru kutengenezea vyoo, Mungu awazidishie, ongezee palipopungua. Asante wote.
So for the girls, they say thank you so much for making their toilets. They appreciate, they are very happy. God bless you so much.
We were also able to get some sanitary products for the girls. While they shouldn't be a luxury, unfortunately, due to their price, they often are. I'm thinking this could be a next project idea. Keep it posted.
Nashukuru kwa kutuletea vyoo, hivi ni vya wavulana.
They say they are very happy for helping them to renovate the toilets. The boys are very happy, as you can see, the toilets.
Amen.
So I'll ask you again. What is the role you're going to write? And I'll let you think on it for a second. And when you find it, you'll know. Because it will be worth it. Because for me, these smiles are the most valuable things in life. So that project was definitely one that was super exciting, and it was really cool to do it completely remote because it was completed in September, and then I got to go to the school and see it for the first time the following February. And what's really exciting is, you know, as I visit, I learn more. And so in that area, you know, a lot of these kids are considered the outcasts of their community, and seeing the area and, you know, how much it's struggling, I think it's kind of cool that these kids who are considered the least now have the best facilities in that area. And then just to get another glimpse of those before and afters, the goal with the art was that the kids could see themselves in the pictures and, you know, have themselves be represented. And so another project that was going on was that these same kids at this school, when they are trying to get from classroom back to the orphanage or classroom to the bathroom, they're having to walk on these dirt paths, which is already challenging enough on a wheelchair, but rainy season in Tanzania can actually last for quite a long time, and those pathways turn to mud.
And it's really challenging. You can see this good friend here really trying her best to push her friend, but it's just not the safest situation. It's not the best situation. And so this was our recent campaign in December. And currently right now, construction is actually underway. Pathways are getting built throughout the entire school, which is really exciting. And it'll be completed at the end of this month. So that's something that I'm really excited about because it's long lasting. It should last for years and hopefully change all their lives for the better. Another project that we have going on right now, hopefully completed in March, is the Maasai Water Project. And so, you know, the Maasai live throughout Tanzania, but in this area, there is a group of them, you know, living together in Monduli, and there is no water source. So, the ground was actually tested there, and there's no like underwater aquifer system from which to drill a well, etc. And so they build really large pits in the dirt, and then when it rains, and it does rain heavily, those fill, and then that's the water source for quite some time. And so you can see here the women gathering to get this water. The cows will walk right through it. It's just not ideal. And so there's a local school there that houses or that works to teach about 700 Maasai children. And when I saw the water that they were drinking, it is literally brown. It looks like hot chocolate. And I knew like we had to do something. And so our goal is to construct this rainwater collection tank that will then have an additional filtration system. The tank can hold up to 20,000 liters or more. And so with the good rain, it can really provide water for these children for quite some time. So that's one of our current projects that's about to begin construction soon. That's definitely something that can be contributed towards. But a project that I had in mind, particularly for this group, is actually in Dodoma, Tanzania, and it involves the Gogo tribe. It's a really cool name, and these kids are in school, but their school really needs a lot of help. And so the next video is kind of going to show you what you could contribute for.
No chair, no desk. 101 children sitting down, listening to her teacher who teaching them. It's a miracle. And then we need them to be pastors, to be presidents, to be in the parliament, but they suffering like this. This is in Chamwino district, in Dodoma region. Very hard and very hard. And this is their blackboard, and this is Swahili, trying to be taught here. Thank you.
So to get desks for these children, they can be handcrafted in the local area by the local carpenters. $50 creates a desk that it's like kind of a bench-like seating with a desktop. So it fits 3 children to 1 desk. That would be $50. To get 50 desks would be a total of $2,500. I'm going to Tanzania in March, so in just a couple months, and I'll be in this region as well, hopefully with the goal of being able to complete this and get these kids these desks. I have truly seen, like being in these low resource areas, that education can be such a way out for kids. And I mean, you can imagine if you're going through an 8-hour school day and you're sitting on the floor, it's just absolutely not ideal. And so not only would it make them more comfortable, but I think when children are learning in an environment that looks good, feels good, they feel a sense of pride in their educational setting as well. And so I would love if together we could accomplish that. And just to give you an idea, these pictures were actually taken yesterday and sent to me. This is the living conditions, the homes of the families and the children that you just saw at that school. These are built typically from mud. And so we're just in a low resource setting, and having those desks would really make a world of difference for those kids. So overall, that's kind of my presentation. This is what I do. This is what I love to do. I usually close by mentioning like the one question that I ask myself that I also live my life by, and it's a guiding principle for me. And it's, what is the wrong you were born to right? So I think we all have, like I said in the video, something in this world that we can personally help change. And if you already know what that is, amazing, continue in that. If you don't know, I encourage you to press towards figuring out what that is. And we can also all help each other in like the different areas that we see change occurring. So if you're interested, I can have Dr. McCullough send out the information, but also you can scan the screen here, and that should take you to a link page that has all of our different sorts of links to donation pages, our website, YouTube, social media, all of those things. But thank you so much for listening today, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share, and I hope that we can work together to create some positive change.
Thank you, Briana. Incredible. You're more than I even know. So I'm just saying what you've been able to accomplish through God. I don't want to wait. I want to do this now, guys. You should be able to take 5 from the guys here.
Dr. McCullough,
Colin, you're breaking
I
up.
don't know if, yeah,
Dr.
we're
McCullough,
not
your
hearing you clearly at
transmission
all.
is very bad.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Okay, try again.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that it's a shame that we would have this presentation and not be able to help these kids with just $2,500. I think we could do it right now. I want to pledge, I'm going to put out 300 myself. And I think with the guys here, we can at least contribute enough to get close to that goal.
Oh, wow.
And so I want everybody to think about what they want to contribute. I don't want anybody to listen to this and not contribute.
Hey,
that's the thing.
McCullough, you're putting the
I'll let it
pressure
go.
on us, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, I
That's a lot of
know, but
pressure.
look at what these kids are going through. We have to help. We have. Now,
Oh,
I failed to introduce. I remember something while the presentation was going on. Briana won an award. Dr. Greene won an award. Tell us exactly what you won at graduation for all of this work she's done. Go ahead. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, I won a couple. One was the Heart for Service Award, which is given by the Alumni Association. I think it was I have it behind me. So basically, let's see. Oh, it was presented by the class of 1990 at I think it was the 100th anniversary or something like that. So just in recognition of commitment to serve and provide medical care to underprivileged at home and abroad. And then I was granted another one, which is called the Roger W. Barnes Humanitarian Award, just for like humanitarian work abroad. So that was a blessing.
What was the name of the school? What school was the 100th?
Loma Linda University.
Oh,
Loma Linda
okay.
Medical School.
Yeah.
I came on late. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys, I think we should, I'll let you guys pose any questions you may have now to her. But
Hey,
I don't
McCullough.
want us to, yes.
McCullough, I'll match your 300.
Okay.
Okay.
All
I'll
right.
match it
Thank you.
I'll at least match it. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I sent 100.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'll put the link. If there's multiple ways to donate, but one is an easy link, so I can put that in the chat right now if you want to save that for future reference. There's not like
send it directly to me, and I'm gonna put it on the thing for all the guys. We have more than 50 guys in our group.
Okay, yeah.
And I want them to go and watch the video, and then I'll ask them to contribute. Yeah.
Okay,
We can do that.
Sure.
This should be a joke for us. Yes. Yeah.
Briana.
Even if all the guys $25, yeah, we should be able to do this easily. Yeah.
Brianna.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Brianna, thank you very much for the presentations. Those are beautiful. I'm one of the physicians on the Friends Talking, and one of the main reasons I went into medicine was because of missions. That's the only reason why I went into medicine. And I actually, my father's from Jamaica, so after I finished medical school and residency, I actually went down to Jamaica and spent about 3 years there at the Mission Hospital. Well, at Andrews Memorial Hospital. So I spent about 3 years there. And so your presentation just brings back memories. And I want to continue to do a mission. So before the pandemic, there were a couple of times we went down to Jamaica and we had a dentist and myself as a physician, and we would go to one of the churches and serve and provide. So I think the projects that you're doing are great, awesome. You've been to so many different countries, and such as a young person. So I think the project that you have with your nonprofit, I think just keep in contact with Makala so that we as a Friends Talking can have several projects from your group so we can help, because we have a lot of resources here and we all want to be involved with missions one way or another, and you're doing a great work. So thank you very much. The one question I do have is climate change. Have you seen a lot of the changes with climate change? I saw your water project and that sort of thing. Is Tanzania and Chad and some of the countries doing anything to help prepare for climate change?
As far as I know, I'm not, super educated on that. I haven't seen too much, but I do know, I think there's different like tree projects going on and things like that, trying to get more trees in certain areas. I know that at least in the one area where I want to do the water project, that was one of our issues, is that we wanted to do a tree project as well, but it's kind of like first you have to solve the water problem, because if they can't water the crops or the trees, then you've got an issue there. So yeah, I can't really speak to the climate change issue too much, but I'm sure they're experiencing it as well.
May I jump a second?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go finish what you have to say before. Go ahead, please.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say thank you for offering like your support and continued support, because what's really exciting is like all the time I just kind of get presented new opportunities, or I find a school and then from that school comes like 3 different projects or things like that. So there will always be something going on.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Dr. Makala, before you get in, can I just say, Dr. Greene, your presentation reminded me so much of my 2 years in Sierra Leone, West Africa, and just traveling throughout Africa. You literally brought me back with those pictures. And I've told this group of men before. One of the striking memories I have from my time in West Africa was what my local resident doctor said to me. We were doing a promotion to raise funds for the hospital. And he said, Marcel, you will show these photographs in America and they will be compelling photographs, but pictures don't smell. And I'd like you to take us through the whole experience of, we saw these videos, we saw these pictures, but just put the smell element with it and to help us to make it come alive for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think especially in the medical setting, you're going to have a whole lot of smells. So unfortunately, when I think back to like the hospitals in Liberia, it's so hot in a lot of these countries. So in Chad, I was lucky enough to kind of be there at the end of like a winter period, but it can get up to like 120 and above. And that's without an air conditioning in sight. And so for a lot of the families in Liberia, like these kids, they may have traveled from quite a far distance to get this surgery. And then it'll be, maybe 6 children to a room, but that also means 6 children plus their parents. And since they've traveled from so far, this room is now the home for these families. And so when you have that many people packed in a tight space, you have wounds, things like that. It definitely can be a powerful smell and just a powerful setting in general. I think, you know, in Chad, what was striking is that what you're seeing families like cook and prepare for their family members might be like so small. So it might be a pot of soup, but the piece of meat in the pot might be like, you know, this big, and then the rest is just like a water broth, and it's just the best that they have. I remember, you know, walking through the newly born baby unit, and you have, you know, these babies that were essentially dying. And I think what stays with me is that what people I really want them to remember is these families would want nothing more than to provide for their children. They just do not have the means. And I read a book that kind of talked about that sense of shame that really like permeates these families, because to not be able to provide for your children when they're in that time of need is the worst feeling. And I remember there was a family with twins, not the ones I showed, but a different family, and to provide antibiotics for their babies would have cost less than $5, and that was too much. They truly just like didn't have it. And so I think there's just so much sharing of resources that we can do. But to further take you there in Chad, when I went on the bus from the capital to the closer to the village I was going to, it was extremely bumpy. I would say we only had patches of about 15 to 20 feet of actual cement, and then you would be back on sand. The whole bus is shaking. If you had a suitcase up here, it's guaranteed probably to come down. Every now and then you'll stop, but you'll have camels walking by. You'll be passing whole villages that are just made of mud, and there's one pump that maybe was supplied by a non-governmental organization or the government, who knows, but it's one water pump that will supply this whole village. And then you'll stop at you know, another village for a break, and one of the delicacies there is crickets, and so you'll just see these giant buckets of seasoned crickets. And then continued on, got off the bus, loaded myself onto a motorcycle. 2 of my suitcases went on another motorcycle, and we started off passing, you know, donkeys, traveling through herds of cows. We stopped at one point, and all of a sudden we're seeing 10 hippos, both in the water and out. And it was just so surreal to be in that sort of natural environment. I've only seen a hippo, you know, in the zoo, and then here it is just casually. And so, you know, you're driving on your motorcycle, and you pull up to the hospital, and there you are. That's home for the next month. So quite an experience.
Yes. Doctor, the book that got me to go to Africa, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Is coming from Isaiah. Here I am, Lord. But the author said, here I am, Lord, send someone else. If you can have a look at the title of that book, it's quite an interesting read. That was what got me to go to having had the invitation to come for about 6 weeks and sitting on it. I was in between decisions, but when I read that book, and I got the blessing from my mother, I was gone.
Can I make a connection?
Yes.
Dr. Honus, your grandfather or your father probably knew her grandfather. Her grandfather was Pastor Shirley Greene, and very prominent in Jamaica when I was a boy growing up. So, and Honus was prominent family, Adventist family there. So I'm sure they knew each other. She's also connected to the Nemhards. There are people here who know some of the Nemhards.
What?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's related to So just so you all have that connection, so you're willing to give more. So whatever you're gonna give,
yeah, I went to school with Eric Green.
I have to go. They're closing up the church on me.
I heard.
But, what I'd like you to take over, Marcel, while I'm traveling.
Okay, Doctor.
Thank you.
I heard someone went to school with Eric Green.
Yeah. I did.
So that's my dad's brother.
Oh, okay. So you just aged me.
Yeah. Small world, but yeah. And then I see a couple of the other questions in the chat. The name of the mission doctor is Dr. James Appel. Really amazing. He's been living with his family across Africa for the last 15 years.
Wow.
Just doing amazing work. They lived in Chad for quite some time, I believe maybe 8 years or so. And then in Liberia. And then let's see, looking through the other questions. So where did I find the cloth and the clothes for the clothing project? So the cloth was just in the local market. That's one of the things I love traveling across Africa is just the ability, A, to find amazing fabric that's colorful and beautiful, but then B, the craftsmanship of the locals there who are able to sew a garment in a day tailored perfectly to you is just phenomenal. And so I truly enjoy like any chance I can get in the market or interacting with like the seamstresses. And then additionally, so what was different is that in most other African countries I've been to, you have a really large used clothing market. And I did not see that where I was in Chad. And so typically you're able to go and find t-shirts, jeans, anything for 50 cents, $1. But in Chad, it was so remote, they didn't have that option. They did have a few like ready-made sets. I assume they were probably from like Asia. They looked very mass marketed. And you could get those in the market for about $2. But that was out of budget for a lot of those families.
I think that's because Chad is primarily a landlocked country, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, it's literally right in the center, and they've just had a lot of turmoil, a lot of wars and such. And yeah, I see questions about like why is there still so much poverty in so many regions? I think there's probably so many answers to that question. I know there's been a lot of, those countries being overtaken by other places, that sort of thing. Lack of resources or resources that are taken away from them, such as the wealth of their own natural resources being managed by others. I think there's a lot of reasons. I think there is a lot of work being done by other countries and within their own countries as well, but there's just a lot of need. So always more can be done. Let's see. Yeah, lots of the projects involved engineering and construction, yes, because that's just what a lot of the need was. And I usually just defer to like the local experts and let start with a plan, and we collaborate together. But I know my strengths. I know that I'm not I am not a construction person, and so love to collaborate with them on those sorts of things. Some of the myths that I've learned, I think sometimes a lot of people are just scared of where they haven't been. But where I've been met with such a welcoming spirit. So I think some people have a bad view of like Africa as a whole in terms of it's not developed and things like that. And while there are a lot of projects that can use help, I also definitely want to highlight there's so much innovation there. There's a lot of technology. Even like within Chad, the capital had, hotels, large buildings, skyscrapers, fancy restaurants, things like that. It's just kind of the more rural you travel, you'll encounter less resources.
Dr. Greene, we have a hand raised. Sebastian, let's take Sebastian. And Sebastian, go ahead with your question. Unmute yourself,
Thank
Sebastian.
you, Marcel. Briana, thank you so much for that presentation. I missed the latter part of it because I was on a call. If someone wants to volunteer, how is that done? What's the process? And if I want to donate, how do I donate to the cause? And the last question, in terms of the security in Africa, I've had some several Africans staying in my villa, and I expressed an interest in going to Africa, and all of them told me I would need to get security, kidnapping and what have you. So how is the security there from your experience?
Or before you answer, Dr. Greene, Sebastian, Dr. McCullough, Dr. Holness, they have put up $500 each, and you can match that with them. So
Well,
So I'm
well,
answering one of the question. I'm answering one of the question for Dr. Green.
I don't want to match that when I would probably give more than that.
Sorry.
I
Sorry.
like to be quiet in my giving.
We will not limit you. And while I'm speaking, Dr. Green, we'll also have the councilman, Attorney Sharp, pass something in his district that will give you the required funding that you need.
I will just smile and say thank you as a blanket statement. But yeah, to answer some of those questions, I think, I mean, obviously Africa is like the continent, so lots of different countries, lots of different situations. I think, yeah, the security situation definitely probably like differs per country. You know, Chad, obviously, there's a lot of conflict just based on the border situation. I've always found Tanzania to be quite safe. I have had other people mention that like certain countries' security might be a good thing, but overall, I think that particularly when you have locals that you're with, that's very helpful because obviously it's their country. They know where are the places to go, what places to avoid, and also you're seen as less of an outsider when you're there with the locals. I think, of course, just, you know, always being careful. You're not being flashy with any signs of wealth or things like that. And also, I usually just make the decision not to travel after dark unless I'm in like a place that I'm very comfortable with. So I think just kind of the standard safety things apply, but knowing where you're going and hopefully that you have someone local who can connect with you and show you around makes a big difference. I traveled alone for all of this, but I think knowing where I was going, knowing that I was going to a hospital that was expecting me, that had both locals and not, is what kind of made the difference. I knew that there was a community waiting for me and I had like a central space where I could be safe from. I could branch out from it, but I had a place to go back to. So yeah, so that's kind of my answer to that. And then I see a question about the currency exchange. So it's around roughly 2,400 shillings to $1 US. That fluctuates, but that kind of gives you a bit of an idea. I have found that some items are much cheaper. So for example, when I did the projects with the sinks, I could get a sink for like $15, a porcelain sink for $15. But other projects like the playground project, that would be more expensive, like the slides may be imported, things like that. And what I found too is it's so helpful to be on the ground because you kind of learn what will work best. So for example, I know if I knew that a community was in need of clothing, you might think, oh, I should gather clothing here, we'll ship it over, but it's actually easier and cheaper a lot of times to get from those used markets over in the actual country. And then you're also supporting the economy and you're not paying the huge shipping costs. So I've learned to really be flexible and be open with what will actually work best and what is actually like the need in the community.
Dr. Green, one of the experiences I had, I remember it so distinctly. I'm sure when you communicated with friends and family back in the United States, they would make comments like, "Oh, this is what Africa need. Oh, this is what they need there. Okay, we'll just send that there." And as you were saying just now, some of the things that they would send would be useless. One other thing that we got in abundance at the hospital from Europe were a lot of hospital beds. Now, you know, these beds use electricity and they go up and down. It was useless because they had no electricity to operate them. And they were heavy beds. So tell us about, because of your connection in California, your relationships, have you found similar experiences where individuals have offered things that would be of benefit, but in real effect on the ground, it is not beneficial?
I think I haven't experienced that too much in terms of like my nonprofit specifically, but I remember like when I was in Haiti, we were actually going through an entire semi-truck container worth of items, and the mission doctor, lovingly referred to it as junk for Jesus because it was all these things that were sent with great intentions, but they were like size 3XL lab coats. Great in theory, but obviously that's just kind of a handoff that these people would be swimming in these lab coats and it wouldn't actually be functional for them to try and work or do any sort of experimentation with them. So yeah, I think there's definitely a balance between accepting items that will be helpful and other items that are just not useful here or there. But I do try to be kind of specific with my asks so that people know like what exactly they can donate and like what would not be helpful. Another project that I have hopefully coming up soon would be library projects. I want to build libraries in different communities for children where they can, check out books, because for them, a lot of the kids, to even get the books required for school is a struggle. So the thought of reading a book like for pleasure or for fun, it's pretty foreign. And so in that sense, it would make sense for me to do big book drives here in America and then ship those on a cargo container and get those over there. So that's a project in the future where I think a lot of people could contribute, and that would be an exciting one. And then I see another question. Well, I know that you'd asked about how to donate, so there's a few different ways. We do PayPal. We have a verified site with them that can be really easy because it's online. You don't need a PayPal account to do it. You just need to enter your information. You can also do direct bank transfers. The nonprofit has its own bank account through Wells Fargo. So you can go to any branch or do a wire transfer from your phone, anything like that. You could do an international wire transfer. PayPal should work internationally as well. Also, we could do written checks. That's an option. And yeah, so those are kind of the options we have right now. Cash App is also an option. The nonprofit has a Cash App account. So those are the ways. All donations are tax deductible as we are an official 501c3. So you can get a tax break for your donations. And then I see another question. What's the best meal you have had? So I love chapati. I don't know if anyone's had it. It is like a fried flatbread. It is so delicious. I eat far too much of it when I'm there. You can eat it with the rice, with lentils, with avocado. One thing I love about Tanzania is the food is so fresh. And so it's most often all the times going from farm to market to table. Going to a supermarket is a pretty rare occurrence. And that's just one of the things that I love is the food is so delicious. Mango season is phenomenal there. And an avocado is like the size of my head. So I love the food, and I'm a vegetarian, and it's not been a problem over there either.
Okay, Carlo, you have your hand raised. You want to go ahead with your question, Carlo?
First of all, Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you,
And
buddy.
Dr. Greene, Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much for your presentation, which regrettably I only got the last part of. I wanted to ask you about whether or not it would be feasible to organize, would it make sense, especially given the discussion that was just had about junk for Jesus? Would it be feasible to have solar-based solutions for the different villages and different tribes that you've mentioned?
Yeah,
does that make sense?
I think it would make sense if it was done properly. I know in Chad, I heard that there were some issues with like solar chargers that different families had for their homes, maybe just like a small one to like charge a phone or something like that. And there had been fires in the area because of like faulty wiring there, but I do think, yeah, solar would be a great option. I know in the refugee camp that I visited in Tanzania, a lot of the families do have small ones about the size of really an iPad, just enough to be able to charge a phone or something like that. So yeah, I think that there's definitely great possibility with solar.
Okay, just as an aside, Sebastian asked about security, but I found it so ironic because in He's from Ghana. And in 2005, I actually traveled to Ghana for a job interview. And from the time I landed in Ghana to the time I left, I had armed security with me. So just putting that in perspective, we're all talking about security, and look at that.
Yeah, it can be anywhere, you can have security issues. I know earlier too, the question had been how to volunteer. And so there's different ways. So right now I do actually have a volunteer over there from America. He's been there for about 3 months now and is staying for around 4 months. And so just to kind of show how different talents can work, he's a musician. And so he's actually been going around to a lot of the different schools. We sent him over with about 70 plastic recorders, and he's been teaching music to all of these different kids, hundreds of kids in all different areas. And so I find that really valuable because he's spreading joy. And so it's not just, I think anyone can support in any way. And then also if there's a specific field that someone has expertise in, be it like web design, finance, anything like that, I always welcome like the dialogue and contribution in that way. Recently I connected with someone who has their degree in finance, and they were just really helpful in terms of going through spreadsheets with me and optimizing that. So any talent really can be useful. It doesn't have to be on the ground. There's a lot that can be done virtually.
Marcel, I can go and teach music then.
Certainly,
Yeah.
certainly.
Truly, truly.
And Carlo, I tell you, okay, so this is one of my sayings now, gentlemen. I believe that every Black man must go to Africa. You should go to Africa in your lifetime. Every person of color should travel to Africa at least once in your life. And it will change your entire perspective of living in this country. Dr. Greene, I say to these men, I just don't waste food. Food will stay in my refrigerator for 5-6 days, and I will eat it for 5-6 days, and I'm not throwing it away. My wife sometimes is like, Marcel, it's from last week. You can throw it away now. I'm like, well, for me, hon, my experience was in Sierra Leone, a cup of rice was what the average Sierra Leonean was surviving on, or a 12-inch loaf of bread. So I just don't throw away food. And we have so much talent. As some of these guys know, I just got this contract working, cleaning garbage at the Orlando International Airport. And for the amount of garbage that we collect in one shift, and for the amount of food that we dispose of in one shift, if I were to collect all that food at the Orlando International Airport, I could feed one of those projects that you're doing, Doctor, for at least a few days.
Yeah, and I agree. I think traveling and seeing these different places, it changes your perspective forever, really. And so at the very least, I hope that, my pictures and videos can kind of take people there, because I think it's hard, rightfully so, maybe, for people to care about what they don't know about or what they don't see or don't connect with. And so, yeah, one of my goals is just trying to increase the awareness so that we know what's out there and we know how we can help. But you're right, it is hard to see a lot of the waste. Absolutely.
And Carlo, just want to, and Sebastian, you asked about security. One of the things that Africans, I think I can say Africans appreciate most is when a foreigner comes to their country, because they treat you with the utmost of respect. And this concept of Ubuntu, we have spoken about it before, where you are my brother's keeper, I'm my brother's keeper. They will feed you, they will look after you, and they will protect you, especially if you come from a vantage point of helping, and they can see the help that you're providing for them. They will protect you. Sierra Leone is one of those countries where you have the mix of Muslims and Christians living together. And if you look after a Muslim, they're going to take care of you. If you look after a Christian, they're going to protect you. And they live peaceably with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I really found that in Tanzania as well. The two religions completely like commingle. There's no there's no animosity, anything like that. And I just thought it was really, really beautiful to see that.
Yeah. Yep. Any other question, gentlemen?
Hey, just a comment. So the Go Desk project, is that a specific friends talking project or other people's are you saving that for us or what?
Yeah.
Briana?
Yeah. I was saving that one for you guys.
Okay, so if you're saving it for us, we need to what's the best way for us? I know Makala, I'll keep in contact with Makala, but is it best for us to send it to one source like Makala and he'll send it to you? Because if he send it to your website, you're not going to know unless we make comments that it's coming from our group.
Right. So what I can do, there's two ways. Yeah, you can send it to him. And if you give me like an hour, what I'll do is on that donation website is I'll put a specific designation like Go Tribe Desk Project. And so when you click to make a donation, there'll be a drop-down box and you'll be able to select that project specifically. And additionally, I believe there's usually an option to comment as well, with whatever you'd like to say, like, oh, this is coming from the Friends Talking group or something like that. So it's up to you if you want to send it to him or get it sent directly through the website in that way.
What's the total cost of that project, Doctor?
So 2,500.
2,500, yeah.
And so again, to an option as well is like if we max that 2,500 and we wanted to do more for that school, such as supplies, posters on the wall, things like that, those are definitely options that we can continue to magnify that project. Just the initial goal is to get the desks.
Is there a deadline, Briana?
Yes. So I would say, I'm gonna say February, maybe 10.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll work with Makala. Go ahead within the hour or two and put that, set aside that website, send it to Makala, and he can, and then Marcel, maybe Marcel can send it to, put it on our chat, and we can do it that way. But we'll come together and do it, and then this will just be one project out of many that we want to be involved with because we want to help you, Briana.
Thank you. I'm really excited for that. And yeah, if you're interested in other ones, the Maasai Water Project is already a drop-down option. And that one is definitely going to require probably the biggest amount of funds to date, just because of the scale of it. And that one, the goal is to complete kind of along the same deadline. Both of these we hope to have done by mid-March.
Yeah. What's the full amount for the water project?
The water project is probably going to be close to 20,000. We already have about 75% of that, which is great. So we're just kind of trying to push to the end of that, but yeah.
Okay.
And we'll send Dr. McCullough to Africa to cut the ribbon for the desk. And Dr. Dr. Holness.
Yeah, and another thing is I always send like pictures and videos of whatever someone donates like their designation to. I make sure that you get pictures and videos of the completed project. So you'll always know that it was done and have the proof of that.
Okay, great. Yeah, just go ahead and put it on the your website or the donation tab or whatever and send it to Marcel.
Well, she said Dr. McCullough. Dr. McCullough. She sent it to Dr.
McCullough. Send it to McCullough. Okay.
Okay. I see in the chat someone has met my dad at Camp Kalakwa. Probably my dad is Richard Greene, and we've been to Camp Kalakwa several times in Florida. So, and I went to summer camp all the time, so it was probably me. Small world.
One last question is, you're in residency now, so is this your second year residency?
This is my first year, so I'm in month 7 now.
So how are you able to do that and study and get involved with all these projects?
Yeah, it's challenging, and it's actually interesting because I was obviously able to do it through med school, but the way I got through med school with it was, I would say, we'll kind of just do one big project for the year, and I could work for that project and then kind of take a break. But actually in this past year alone, I think we've had about 8 projects completed. And so it just continues to multiply, but I thank God that he gives me the energy for this and like the fire and the passion for it. And I'm kind of, you know, trying to off branch or learn to delegate and get other people on board, and that way kind of spread the work a little bit. But somehow I just make it happen. I think you make time for what's important to you. It refreshes me and it fills my time. So
So,
somehow it's getting done.
Dr. Green, someone is asking for you to put your contact in the chat. I will also inform you. You can either put it in, you can put it in the chat, but if you want to also speak it verbally, we are recording on YouTube, so it will reach a larger audience later on. So the choice is yours. You can put it in the chat, or you can put it on YouTube.
Okay, sure. So our email is fromhearts2hands incorporated inc @gmail.com. The website is fromhearts2hands.org. And those are the best ways to get in touch. If you'd like, I can share my screen again for a moment and just kind of pull up the contact screen again, just so that can be up on the screen. I'll do that.
Yes, I screenshot it.
Okay, perfect. So, yep, there's our website, email. We also have social media as well. So Instagram is one way that we're kind of constantly updating. It's _ and then from hearts, the number 2 hands. So that's another way to keep involved. But what I would recommend is if you go to the website, something will pop up that invites you to put your email in to be added to our newsletter list. And I definitely recommend that because I get those contacts, and then you'll be a part of the monthly or bi-monthly email blasts that go up sharing what new projects are going on, sharing the progress that's happening. But also if you designate your donation to the Go-Go Desk project, I will also be creating like a separate email chain for you guys so that we can keep you involved in what's happening.
No, yeah, I think you just need to just put the Go-Go whole project friends talking. That's what you just need to do, and we'll just take that over.
Okay. It's yours. I've designated it to you. I am excited.
Good. I think we have about 7 minutes left, Doctor. Ray, you have your hand raised. You want to go ahead, Ray?
Yes. Thank you very much. Doc, I am very, very pleased and, of course, impressed to hear your blessing that you've been blessed with, and also been able to make yourself a blessing by being used by the Lord in this regard. I grew up in Jamaica in some rural areas, very, very similar to what you've showed me in those videos. I grew up with carrying wood and water on my head, and I've also, so all of those, making a fire from sticks and putting a couple of stones together and all that type of thing. I am well versed in that, and it is so nice to see someone else taking up the mantle. Incidentally, I have a friend who's I know there are many people all over the world who have taken up the mantle, but it's nice to see someone close by. I also have a friend who happens to be from Jamaica. He's a grown man now in his 60s, and he's lived his entire life, and his kids are grown, and he a few years ago took off and went down to Kenya, and he's down there with a similar project like yourself, and we have a WhatsApp chat, and about 15 or 20 of us are on that WhatsApp chat, and he sends us updates, baptisms, different things that are going on a regular basis. So it's a good, really, really good feeling to see you've taken up the mantle. So enough said from me. We will definitely, as a part of this group, be contributing to your projects, and of course we'll be praying for you, and we know that God will sustain you, and He will also raise up others to help you as well. You know.
Oh,
So
okay.
so thank you for bringing me back to my childhood. I wasn't born in Jamaica, but I grew up in Jamaica. You know, my parents are Jamaican, and I was there since I was like 4 years old. So at 4 years old, I was running through the bushes, climbing trees, you know, picking coconuts, you know, making wood fires, the whole 9 yards, everything, and without running water. So the running water was at a spring somewhere, or a river somewhere, you know, that sort of thing. So it's nice to to be brought back to my childhood, you know. And I'm glad that you know a lot of us could see it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. I'm glad I brought you back, and I'm glad that we can all kind of join in with this. And thank you for the kind words as well. I'm happy to be able to do this work. It's a blessing.
Dr. Greene, on behalf of the men of Friends Talking, we would like to thank you very much and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. We wish you all the best in completing your residency, and we look forward to your successful graduation. And I'm sure you will find your the experiences that you're having currently, to be beneficial to you when you become ultimately a full-fledged doctor and doing your thing. You may find that the continent of Africa becomes home, because there's just no continent in the United States. What else would you like to share with us?
I guess just to go along with that, I am actually signed up to move there as soon as residency is done. So I've signed for like a 2-year commitment, and then there's more opportunities past that. But yeah, that's definitely the plan as soon as I'm done my training, to go work at a mission hospital over there. And my goals are to be both in the hospital, but also have my time doing this type of community work, more of the public health world that really brings me joy.
Africa is infectious. I mean, once you go there, you don't want to leave. I've been trying to persuade my wife to let us move there, but to no avail.
You mean infectious in a positive way?
Certainly, Carla. Certainly. Oh, well. Certainly, Carla. Thank you for the clarification. So,
Briana.
Doctor, yes, go ahead, Kenny.
Hey, Briana.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk to my daughter, and I just sent her a text. Her name is Mariah. She's a pretty good administrator, so I'll see whether she's willing to just donate some time to help you with some of the administrative stuff you're doing while you're in school.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'll see. Her name is Mariah Wholeness. So I'll reach out to her and see what she can do to help you, and she'll reach out to you on the website. Okay.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And we're also putting you in contact with the councilman of New York. He's a newly elected, newly minted councilman, and whatever you want, his council will get it done for you.
I'm just going to say yes to everything you say. Okay.
Right, Attorney Sharp?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Again, Dr. Greene, thank you for being our first guest for the year. I think you have set the table, you have set the bar, and we look forward to having you again to give us some of the success reports. And we'd love to have you after you have graduated, and even when you're there in wherever you are in Africa, to have a live connection with you one day. And we wish you all the best, and all the best for everything that you do. God bless you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It was truly lovely to be with all of you today. So I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Thing before you leave, I happen to, those of you who are close to me, you know me well. I happen to live by this mantra. If you have done it unto the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. I live by that. And my whatever I do, I don't talk much about it, but I just let the Lord lead accordingly. Yes. But it is wonderful. It is exceptionally wonderful to see other people living by that same mantra, you know? And more than anything else, I know you are a blessing, and you will continue to be a blessing. And God has put us all in different positions, in different times and different spaces for reasons like this. Because when we all get to heaven, there'll be people who are on the sea of glass who will walk up to us and say, you know, you don't know me, but because you did this, I am here. Because you did that, I am here. So let's keep on doing what the Lord has blessed us to do, commissioned us to do.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
that's well said, Brother Ray. But it's been nice to see who you are. I mean, I'm not like everybody else who know everybody, and you just hide your face and talk. And
But Paul, your camera is off too. So what are you talking about?
I can't mess that up. But I'm not saying anything. So okay. If Brother Ray will show his face, I'll show mine. Okay, man. I see you. Okay, man.
Good.
TV too.
Good.
Right.
So Brianna, sorry, you see what these men get up there on a Saturday evening?
I see. I've been led into the secret world.
Sorry for the bad behavior displayed. All right, please forgive us.
And I'm the one that went to school with your uncle, Brianna.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great.
And probably met you as a child at Camp Calacqua, because I brought my kid and met his brother, your father, on the campgrounds.
Wow, small world.
Nice meeting you. Yeah, small
All right,
world.
Paul, and because you were late, you will close us off with prayer, Paul.
Okay, Father, thank you so much for just the privilege that we have to know you as God and ruler of this world, and thank you for the exposure that we have to your truth. Thank you for the example set by young people like Dr. Greene, and for what she's doing. May we be inspired to do what we can in our little world, in our little corner, for you too. Help us as we to keep our pledges to support this ministry, because we see how important it is for others to know that as people of God, we care about everyone, and each man is my brother. So, Father, we ask that you'll bless our ministry and bless us all as we strive to do our best for you this year, 2024, for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen. Dr. Greene, thanks again, and have a good rest of the evening and the Sabbath. Gentlemen, have a good evening, and God bless you. Dr. McCullough, safe journey home, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Brianna,
Guys, God bless.
don't forget to put that on the website for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Donation.
Yep, I'll do that
Okay.
now.
Get it to me. I'll remind you if you don't send it. If you don't
Okay,
remember.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening now. God bless.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Blessings.